Carla joins us from Accor. I don't think Accor needs much of an introduction, but I'm going to ask her to do an introduction in a bit anyway. Stephen joins us from Seiko Eden, so service departments. James joins us from Othello, which is a socializing network for, I think, mentors and connecting mentors with industry specialists, but also a consultant at GrowthWorks. And then Vasilis joins us from Geo Analytics, an analytics platform, but also working at Pandox. I feel like everyone has two jobs in this panel, and I feel highly underqualified to be able to ask questions because I only have one job, but I love that to have you all here. And I love also the variety of backgrounds, right? We have the brands here, we have the service department category here with the consultancy side, but we also have the management companies on the Pandox side. And I think that will lead to quite a great discussion. So I'm going to go left to right to ask everyone to just introduce themselves, what their role is in the company that they work at. But also maybe if you can, I'm going to throw in a bonus question. Like, what's the one innovation that got you really excited around changing guest experiences in the last year or year and a half that has just really either been implemented in your business that you've seen come in that really excited you, or are you even seeing and you're taking inspiration from maybe another industry, but something that's really impacting the guest experience potentially? Carla, hi.
Hey, hello. How are you guys?
Hey, great.
I have a very bad cold, so
oh, no.
I already have an accent. With a cold, can you imagine how it's gonna be? But nice to meet you all. I work in Accor for a long time, 15 years now. Today I'm leading the team in charge of hotel technology and customer experience. That includes all the openings, onboarding hotels, training, roll out new projects, support hotel users, and take care of all the off-the-shelf technology like PMS, a great partnership with Mews, point of sales, PBX, all that you can imagine that is off the shelf, it's under our organization. I was very glad to hear that someone was mentioned Floor's name in the session before. Yes, we're doing a massive transformation and changing the way that we're approaching technology for hotels. And one of that was that crazy idea of open the market for 8 PMSs. So for me, that is the biggest change that we are driving right now. It's not only affecting the customer experience, but also the employee experience that for me, that is key. We needed to find new ways to do hospitality in a simplified way with a lot of agility, with flexibility. And if we don't use what is the best in the market today, it's quite hard to succeed. Thank you.
And you were really one of the first, I guess, that opened up this widely to new technologies in terms of big brands.
Yes, we are a leader in Europe and we have so many brands. If we are not creative and if we don't drive the way forward, I think we can't be followers in that one.
Thank you, Carla. Stephen, joining us from Seiko Eden. Can you explain to us what those brands are? I think because in the UK, you're very big, but maybe other countries might not necessarily know. And also the question around innovation, one technology innovation that you've seen that excites you.
Yeah, toss that one in there as a curveball for me, but we'll start with a bit about Seiko and Eden and our new brand Cove as well. So Seiko, historically one of the pioneers in service departments, been around for over 20 years, really specializing in corporate medium to extended stay guests. And what we've seen obviously pre-COVID, but certainly accelerated by COVID is a lengthening of stay. And so what we've done is beyond Seiko, gone and created a new brand in Cove, which is targeted at not just kind of our traditional corporate guests, but more and more leisure guests as well. So it's really a service department, but not one as you know it. It has a certain look and feel that is not just more like a home, but one where you can work, sleep, eat, live your life in all modes. That's the key for us as we build this brand and where we're positioning ourselves for the future. So we'll come on to that, but I think more and more of the modern traveler and guest are really fitting that mold more every day. So that's kind of where we are in terms of technological advances. Well, it's been a busy year for us as we've implemented Mews across the entire estate. So we had half of our estate on Mews and half on another PMS. So getting that kind of groundwork in place is really the precursor to building an app, getting in place a really great keyless entry system, getting hopefully into Apple Wallet and all the exciting things that are going to kind of come on that front. I think that's really where we're seeing the change now, and especially given the staffing situations that the whole industry is facing, that's going to become more and more important. Not just delivering a key on your phone, but something that really works. It's super easy, and something that people are going to use again and again and again, which is even more important for extended stay than it would be for a transient hotel. So definitely excited about what we've done, and the year to come is even more exciting on that front.
Nice. And you, like you said, you've been around for quite a while with service departments. It's not a new thing, but have you seen the acceleration in your business? Like we talked about it on our side that we were seeing it, but are you seeing, did you have one of the greatest years ever in history because people are looking for that, or actually is it a mixed result?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who says they had a fantastic 2020 and 2021 are probably being a little bit facetious. I think the reality is it's been a good year in terms of trading. It's been fine, right? But what it really has done is it's set up the industry as a whole, and including external investors and lenders, et cetera. They now understand service departments much better. They understand that it is like a hotel, but it's also like residential. And in terms of kind of the investment landscape that comes with that, if you're a developer and you've got an empty piece of land and you're deciding what to build on it, 5 years ago, service departments would never have been on your list, right? You're going to build a hotel, you're going to build an office, you're going to build some sort of residential complex. Now it is, and that means it's fundable. The banks will go out and lend for those kind of projects. So in that respect, although it's not been a great trading year, it's been a fantastic year for service departments as a whole, and kind of the brands that we have as well. So the industry acknowledgement has certainly been accelerated by COVID, and we're very grateful for that.
Thank you. James, welcome back. It's great to have you on our different panels. You've started a new company in the pandemic, Otolo. I'd love to hear more about what you've wanted to achieve with that, but you're also still working at the growth work as a consultant, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, kind of quick whistle stop history. So kind of hospitality in the DNA, growing up in my parents' bed and breakfast on the Isle of Wight, just off the south coast of England, and kind of helping out in cafes. But as a grown-up, I had 5 years at IHG in kind of strategy teams, planning new brands and global rollouts. I then had 4 years in Travelport, so the kind of travel tech side of the industry, really understanding how all these different tech options were coming about and could bolt together. And then nearly 4 years now in kind of startup land. So I think when we first met, that was Chief Operating Officer of Hostmaker, which for a short, glorious time, I think was Europe's kind of largest property management company with about 2,500 homes across Europe. We launched what is now Marriott Homes and Villas. And I think I've been really excited about prospects of the industry since then, having seen hotels, seen tech, seen startups. There's a sweet spot in the middle where I think we all want to operate. So yeah, the growth work started really as a strategy and innovation consultancy for hospitality, helping tech companies kind of scale in the industry, but actually helping big hotel companies be more innovative, and exactly as Jordan was evangelizing, being more open and more ready for innovation. So we set up partnership hubs at companies like IHG. We've had people like Hilton and Preferred Hotels and Whitbread Premier Inn kind of on our roster in the last couple of years. So we've been really busy, and I think hotels are definitely open to that discussion of how do we innovate, how do we move faster, which is brilliant. Atolo, yeah, we started a free mentoring program for the industry when all this kicked off, just seeing that people who had a lot of experience had a huge amount to share with people who were going through their first pandemic, and what a punch in the face it was with just being out of work and new skills suddenly being needed. We've just won our second kind of government grant, so we're now pretty well backed, which is great. And now I think we're trying to unlock what we're calling peer-to-peer learning, which is just this idea that, you can actually learn all the answers you need to be amazing at your job and get ready for your next job from your peers and from mentors and from people around the industry. I think for way too long, this industry's relied on, if you've got a great boss, you're going to do fine. If you haven't got a great boss, you'll probably leave the industry within a year. And so we're trying to democratize that. We're trying to say, look, everyone could have a great mentor. Everyone could have that kind of expert in their pocket to give them a steer and an objective listening ear. So that's what Atolo is all about. We've just launched the world's largest hospitality mentoring pledge. We've got over 70 mentors who have offered kind of £200,000 of leadership time next year to mentor, from IHG, Marriott, Accor, and many others. So really excited about the future. But yeah, we'll share a bit more about that. You asked about one innovation. I can't miss that. I'm going to pick a non-tech one. My favorite innovation of the last 2 years, Matt, it's got to be this kind of finish or cook at home concept. Hotel restaurants that just nailed that. We're like, look, we're shut, but we've got these great chefs. We can't let them go. Let's either, exactly as Richard was saying, let's do a ghost kitchen, or let's do food delivery. Or the innovation I love is, you get a parcel and you kind of finish the steaks at home, you get a glass of cocktail. I think it's just brilliant, and it keeps these brands top of mind. It keeps their social medias buzzing. So any hotel that's done that kind of innovative food concept, that's got to be the best innovation as a bit of a foodie.
Love that. I love food too. I don't like cooking.
They also do picnic baskets or whatever's right for you. There's a place in Wimbledon where you basically just set up like a coffee bar, and it's just like pizzas and martinis and just sit out on the lawn. I'm like, brilliant. Hotels closed,
nice.
but you're still going to make good money, and it just keeps the team engaged. Ultimately, this is all about culture now. So that's where you got to start.
Thanks, James. Vasilis, welcome back as well. Tell us about these 2 jobs that you have, and how heavy are they? Because I don't envy you.
I actually have 3 jobs, but you don't know about that. But I'm a hotelier, right? For the ones that don't know me, I come from within the industry. I started from restaurants. That's what my parents had in Greece, in good tradition. That's where I started. So I'd say I'm busy with multiple things. Primarily now with technology at Juyo. So we do hotel analytics and data visualization. And we do some of these new generation analytics around, cost of acquisition, total revenues, around lifetime value, all these new exciting areas that, hotels should be busy with. Pandox has been a customer, is a hotel ownership company, has been a customer for a long time. We are good friends, working since 15 years, and have been a bit the test dummy for Juyo when the company started. So that's what I do. The third part is I'm also busy with technology around revenue management for meeting and events. So, all that inventory is going online. So we are looking, how can we automate, inventory and pricing in meeting and events? That's a very, very exciting area as well. So that's the different things that I'm busy with. In terms of innovation, I'm going to be very boring in terms of innovation, what I like. But I think everything around digital key has really felt a little bit like it's a rocket science, I think. But there's a few companies that have really managed to, give a digital key to the customer without downloading an app. And this is really getting more seamless as we go. And I think that's really, really exciting. And the other one is the payment. The payment is just a pain. You just want to get it out of the way. So I think if you remove these things, you do a lot of space for actually people to do something better in terms of customer experience. So I think these are really 2 pains, I would say, that I'm excited about.
Thank you, and totally agree.
I'm sure.
So the first topic that I wanted to talk about today was the influence of technology and the forced evolution of hospitality. I think we've obviously seen that COVID has been an accelerator for change. We as an industry are unfortunately running on a lot of legacy software across the board, right? It's not just the PMS space, it's across the board. We have legacy systems everywhere. And I'd love to understand a little bit better, we have a lot of hoteliers here listening. Where should they start? If everything is breaking and you have to run everything from your home, where should we be looking? And kind of, I'll take that first question, like what has this change taught us? And where should we focus on to grow? Because I think we definitely have learned that we need to innovate, but where do we begin as an industry? Carla, what do you think?
Well, for us, there is no magic formula, but we all face the same challenge today. So we wanted to start where we can have great quick wins and really accelerate in savings for hotels and for ourselves. Today, hospitality is super traditional, especially in brands like Accor. It's super square and things. It's like you have it as like a small corner shop, every hotel. So move it to cloud. It's super basic. We talk all the time about moving to cloud, but making that happen in everything that is sitting at a hotel It's not just shifting technology, but it's shifting process, behaves of the teams, and also expectation from customers. So you can't compare in terms of performance when you have it, everything sitting in your LAN and you start to move it up to cloud. You force it, owners and hotels to invest it in fiber that is so basic, but we still needed to work it on that and push the technology through, find a better source, better technology, and accelerate. So cloud for us is something that it's the must happen, and it's what is gonna really help us in our industry to go faster, save cost, and be agile enough as we need it. During the pandemic, many times we had to update our systems and the hotel was closed, but all the services was located in the data center, in the computer room in the hotel. Who doesn't have that reality? So that for us is like, it's forcing us to move thanks to COVID in that sense, but it's also needed a massive investment from owners. So we needed to be very creative, pick and choose what we're gonna prioritize to make things accelerate in the pace that we needed. Strong foundation and then pace for the innovation and future.
Thank you. Vasilis, what do you think? Like I guess if we look at Pandox, you're sitting across a number of brands, but also a number of independent hotels. Does an independent hotel have more flexibility in that sense to drive innovation faster and therefore get a head start? Or actually, should we stick with the major brands because down the line, their return on investment is going to be much bigger?
No, I think independent hotels have really much more flexibility than they had like 5 years ago. 5 years ago, maybe there was just a few choices. Today, technology has evolved so fast that, you know, everything is pretty much a blank canvas. You can start from scratch and get on with it. I would say that the one thing that you should start with, you should start with a heart transplant. And the heart transplant is obviously coming to the cloud with a PMS. That's the first thing we should do. And then provided that you're already on the cloud, then you need to start thinking, what has the highest impact in terms of customer satisfaction, in terms of contribution to the bottom line, in terms of improvement in whatever metrics I'm going. And then you categorize them and then you start from there. You know, sometimes hoteliers, what we like to do is boil the ocean. We try to put a project forward that's going to take 15 years to accomplish. We want to change everything together. It's not realistic. And we are not thinking in that, to use the buzzword, agile way of saying, hey, like 1% of improvement every day, and just going a little bit further will actually do the change. So I'd say one thing is, as an advice I would give, don't try to boil the ocean. Just do small increments every day. But first do the heart transplant. That you need to go through.
Love that. Stephen, how do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, we went through the heart transplant. That's what we've done this year, and it's for exactly the reasons that Carla and Vasilis mentioned, right? Which is you have to get your plumbing right first, otherwise the rest of the house doesn't matter. So, you know, that PMS is absolutely crucial. Getting it in the cloud, crucial, and then you can kind of go from there. I think the next steps of kind of what we're looking to more and more, especially as we hopefully emerge from kind of lockdowns and pandemic, touch wood, is that we want to start really truly owning the customer much more than we do today from a technological side of things, right? And I feel like, you know, when you get your PMS right, that helps certainly, but there's still, you know, everybody I'm sure, you know, who's actually operating hotels is taking, you know, a myriad of OTAs and other types of bookings that are, you know, where you're not getting true ownership of the customer. And I think kind of unpicking that and having a more direct relationship, not just booking direct, but actually starting to understand who that person is pre-arrival and certainly by the end of their stay is going to be a real focus as we get into kind of going back out and starting marketing again and starting to push, you know, loyalty programs and other things that are going to be important for everyone as an industry. They've time to take a bit of a back seat over the last year and a half, but I think they're going to roar back into the front as we, you know, enter this brave new world.
So who should own that digital customer journey in the hotel? Because I do agree it's so core, but if you look about a traditional hotel, that, you know, who is the person, what's the title of that person and what's their job description?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I was thinking you were asking who should own it. Should it be the PMS? Should it be the end user? Yeah, should be the the hotel, what have you, or the OTA, right? Of course, would argue the hotel. It's our guest at the end of the day, but certainly OTAs would dispute that, and other PMSs may do as well. But in terms of the actual person who owns that digital guest experience, I think that's a really tricky one. So in both my time when I was at Sonder and also within Eden, it isn't as clear cut. It's not just your CTO that owns it, right? At Eden, it sat more in the commercial team because it was touching on the commercial side of things, and that's where the web was as well, and that made a bit of sense. In Sonder, it was an engineering team and kind of project managers from an engineering standpoint. So it really can sit a number of different places. I think the most important thing is that you have someone whose dedicated job it is to own digital guest experience, and ideally they have some engineering project management background, but also come with a bit of hospitality too, so they can understand not just the cold hard math behind it, but really what it takes to deliver a soulful guest experience, but one that's applied digitally.
Because Carla, do you have teams in place that own that guest journey from end to end? I know that you have digital teams in place, and it's hard for people to understand sometimes how your role sits versus a digital team. How does the structure work?
It's super easy to understand. Technology is the enabler. So that is the place we play. We are not the experts in GX, but they're in a core, especially in big brands like we are. You have a people that breathe and lives in the GX and redesign all the touching points and everything. I think we play a very important role there to simplify their life. So don't think about technology, leave that with us, put the problem, design the solution, and we will execute it for you. So the way that we play, and our teams play that super well, it's really to play as an enabler in that thing. Just sharing an experience, we had it, and I saw you guys mention in the previous panel. In 2016, we started to roll out mobility. So not mobility as we know, but we call mobility as in our company, is really to started to remove it at the desktop, but we haven't started from the point of view of technology to removing desktop and reception. We started to remove that from the point of a guest experience, created a new artist program that we needed to onboard new talents in our hospitality, because we were completely segregated. We had no other choices than simplify and make it more attractive for talent. So everything started either, and we have the GX for the guest experience, but we have the talent journey as well. And the two things has to have technology as a common point of view, because I can't design anything just for GX, for the experience for the guest, without thinking about the employment and how do we attract it and maintain things simple. So in a core, especially since Flora arrived, we have a very simple slogan on that: keep it simple, keep it technology easy. Let's simplify technology as much as we can. So enabling that mindset in everything we design and everything that we buy off the shelf is the key success for us. And I think Accor is playing a very great role with a great experts in GX today.
Nice. And what you've got, I think, close to 40 different brands at Accor. Am I quoting a correct number?
If we keep it counting every day, they change it. It's unbelievable. And that is a good point, because we can't design something that fits all. We have a very consistent experience for an Ibis family with a mobile first and everything, but we can't replicate that for super luxe. We have to design something else, and then it's a different set of technology that we will enable that journey that has been designed. So, but I would like to listen to my colleagues as well, because I know there is a few disruptive new ways to do hospitality, not the traditional way, and I would like to hear from them as well, their experience.
Because James, you're very much on the employee experience side with the mentoring program. What have you learned in this last year?
Yeah, cheers, man. I definitely want to. I definitely want to touch on. You've highlighted forced evolution. I definitely want to unpick that a bit, right? Because it's so much more than technology. I think Carla went straight to people, which I love. I think there's like the way that we need to engage our audiences, because what our customers and potential guests want has changed. There's way more options for your teams to go and take exciting roles in other industries. But I also think you've used the word evolution, right? And not everyone is adapting actually, and nor should you panic if you haven't adapted yet. I don't think it is crystal clear exactly how that's going to play out. There's plenty of hotel companies that aren't going to be ripping out their PMS in the next few years. And so I'm happy to, I'll share a few thoughts on kind of tech and talent, but they really are a few thoughts because the answer's different whether you're an independent hotel, 5 hotels, 20, 100, or a global chain as well. I think kind of point one has to be there's clearly this gold rush of technology options out there. You've got several generations of tech companies battling together. You've got these legacy grown-ups who are saying they're ready to be kind of cool and hip and down with the kids, right? You've got these evolving players like Mews has been around for nearly a decade now and yeah, have a certain size, right? And then you get these brand new players that literally started doing what they were doing in the last 24 months. And I think that's really exciting, right? A lot of hoteliers have turned entrepreneurs. A lot of people lost their roles and set up a brand new business in the downturn. I'm sure Jordan were here still. He'd be saying about this availability of capital. Finally, hospitality is looking like an exciting investable space as well. But as a hotelier, that does not make it easier. We've just created this landscape of hundreds of companies offering dozens of different solutions. And the average hotel, even the average chain, you know, Jordan says, hey, there should be a dedicated role just looking at tech. Maybe, but a lot of people don't have that, right? And they're sitting there going, it's so much easier not to make a decision and put up with an average bit of tech than ripping out, you know, you've used the phrase heart surgery a couple of times. I love the fact that someone put in the chat, actually, like, that might kill us. Heart surgery might kill you, right? And so I think that we definitely need to have some grown-up conversations about tech. We all agree vigorously, but I actually think if you go to owners right now, if you go to a lot of GMs, you go to people who have been in the industry 20 plus years, a lot of them are thinking, well, I don't really know the answers. I seem to be hitting my budgets each year or thereabouts. So actually, my job's done, right? What is that incentive to suddenly embark on a multi-year technology project when actually you've got a smaller team than ever? Your team's a bit burnt out. You don't have these specialist skills. So I think with all of our conversations in the Growth Works with owners and GMs, with a lot of our mentors as well, everyone is open to change, but actually practically getting stuff done is really hard. And I think that's the industry's biggest sticking point is we don't really know what to do next. I think the first step is come to events like this. You know, you suddenly get 30 fresh perspectives in 2 hours. I think that's brilliant. But I think that doesn't necessarily mean that you then have permission to go back to your company and say, I want to put a new PMS in. We're going to do upselling next week. And that might not be right for you. So just a couple of points on talent. I think whether, you know, line managers, people's bosses right now, you've got to be asking your team, what are you looking for? Why are you still working for us with everything that's been going on? You'll probably find some real passions for change and people wanting to do something a little bit different. And that's your way in. That's the way that you innovate. You don't necessarily have to employ someone new. You take your front desk person who's come to a Mews event. You take your restaurant manager who's read about some tech, and you get them started on a really small squad. You know, you get a cross-functional team together, and you just set them, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Hey, come back and do some research. And that could be a sustainability team, right? Hey, lots of young people really passionate about going green. Well, how's your Google Green ranking looking? How's your Booking.com sustainability badge looking? How's your latest corporate RFP looking in terms of, are you a green hotel? So get a small team on it. They'll love it. Maybe it's looking at the community. How do you drive local guests to the hotel, local revenues? Maybe it's tech, right? Maybe it's what are we going to do with our marketing funnel? What are we going to do with our core systems? And start having people have 5 phone calls with Mews and competitors, with Oki and Nor One and their competitors. Start to bring that knowledge into the hotel in a little project team. That's absolutely where where I would start. It's really motivating for people. It gets teams solving problems and it can drive real change. And that's the biggest thing we found in the last 2 years. People will not work in hospitality if they think their job's going to be the same 2 years from now. But if you give them a proportion of their time to work on a project that they are excited about, that they want to build skills in, and will also help your hotel, whether that be technology, new revenue, sustainability, I think we have a real chance. I've got lots more I could say about the skills that will take, but I'll pause there because I think this forced evolution is a great topic, but it's got to start with people and mentorship and growth rather than, I think, technology.
And I love it. You speak truths, many truths, actually. I love everything you're saying. And especially like around CSR, like it's become with the younger generation, the millennials in our company, there has been this like, what is Mews doing to better the world, right? You're just automating things, but there's got to be something more to the business. And we opened up the conversation, said, well, who wants to participate in changing it? And then we started forming committees of people that, you know, they get 2 days a year to just do anything in the CSR in theme. So we try and give it a theme, but it drove a lot of engagement. And I think that's really important, that you break them out of their standard jobs and you get that going. Any of the other speakers, are you doing anything exciting in terms of engaging your teams in that sense?
You know, I can add something here. I think that we already, let's say in hospitality, there's a hard time of getting people. I mean, it's just incredible what's happening there. So, and people, I agree with James, people are the most important asset. That's where it all starts. But I mean, it's so hard to find people. So you do need technology actually to, you know, automate a few of these things to get more efficient, because anyway, they're not going to be around in hospitality, you know? So, and then you have these new people that are coming in the workforce. They're already looking at hospitality. Hey, you know, this has been not going so well for the last 2 years. I'm going to stay out of this. And then you put them in the front of something antiquated in terms of technology and in terms of tasks, where they say, hey, you're only going to be working at the bar or something. And here's this crazy 80s sort of system, and you need to plug things in there, and that's how it works. I mean, it's already hard to find people, but there it's like you lose them completely. So you know that it's not going to work. So you really need to provide them an environment, get these great people in, and provide them an environment that indeed, you know, they have a job that touches many different things. That you know, they can host, they can be busy with all aspects of hotel management. You know, that's multifunctional, that's powered by technology, that they can be themselves, they can express their personalities, they can work like being part of something else. So it's all part of the sort of same thing to make it attractive. I mean, James is the expert here. I don't mean to say that, but yeah, I think it all comes hand to hand. So technology is not, it's the enabler. It comes back to what you said.
But you see, but it's not always the way, right? Take chefs, right? The industry can't find chefs for love or money, right? But they're not looking for a high-tech solution. They're just looking for an inspiring place to work. And no wonder hospitality hotels can't find chefs, because the restaurants 9 times out of 10 are designed 5 years ago. The menus are designed 5 years ago by someone hundreds of miles away, right? If you get told you're going to be making club sandwiches and burgers for 10 hours a day, that's probably not what gets you excited about being a chef. I think one of the reasons I love, there's hotel chains like the Pig Hotels in the UK, is that each chef is able to take charge of a locally sourced menu. Obviously, they've got a bit of space for a kitchen garden. They do this 25-mile menu where you go and find suppliers from around the hotel, and you can really kind of think about seasonal produce, and that's an inspiring place to work. We've got to figure out how to bring that into the rest of our business, which is, look, you may be checking in people for 6 hours a day, but we're going to carve out this couple of hours where you can join this team that's thinking about what our tech might look like next year, or thinking about bringing new revenues into the hotel, or thinking about how we improve our guest experience. I think it's this blend of day job and mini projects that I think will get people more excited about hospitality. I've only ever really worked on projects. That's probably why I'm still here 10 years later. But I think that's from working with people, they all want to know what's next. And a lot of people in hospitality don't get a chance to prove themselves on the next thing. Hey, I'll do this job until someone says I'm ready for a promotion. If I don't have a great boss, I don't even know if that's ever going to come. But if I feel like I'm learning new skills all the time, if I can see myself writing my CV or resume kind of each month, then actually I'll stick with it, even if the tech is a bit older. But I don't disagree with Silas. Obviously, if you walk in and it feels like you're walking into Apple's HQ, brilliant, right? If everything's touchscreen and it's like learning to use an iPad, fab. But I don't think it has to be that for us to address our talent problem. I think actually we've just not really prepared for a talent crisis we could have seen coming, and we've not really given our people either the inspiration or the development that they deserve. And I think that's probably what we need to do as we think about employer branding and training and upskilling the industry.
Yeah, and I think we were all caught off guard by it, right? We all assumed that people would just walk back into our hotels when you post a job ad, and they don't. They have moved on to other companies, and we've got to lure them back in and explain to them what their career journey would be. And it takes effort. It's not as easy as it used to be, and we have to put effort behind our brand and making them understand what their experience would be as an employee coming into your company, and what that journey in the next few years would look like. And it is hard work. It's not a little action plan you put out there. That's a full-time job there that a hotel needs to do to rethink their brand. And how do you implement that? And how do you train people to get them excited? Is there a mentoring platform like Otolo that you can join? We use internally at Mews, we use a lot of mentoring platforms because, if I'm a specialist in a field, I may not necessarily get the exposure to learn internally because we don't have those specialists, but we've got these great mentoring platforms out there where you can connect your people. Like if you're a revenue manager in a hotel, who are they going to learn from? From the GM? Possibly, because they may have come from that revenue stream, but there are phenomenal platforms out there that can connect you to a regional revenue manager at a different hotel company. And it is an investment because you pay for these platforms often, but it's worth it because the return on investment will come down the line in retention, because if you can keep your employees for longer, obviously that returns on investment very well, and happier employees, I hope.
Yeah, I completely agree, Matt. I think one of the things I learned kind of running startups is exactly that. I can't teach my teams what they need to know, right? You don't have this marketing lead with 20 years experience. You've got someone who is a self-starter, they want to learn, they want to get ahead. So how do you get them a mentor? And that's exactly the approach. So someone kind of shared with me, look, you've got 8 million different kind of hospitality businesses in the world. They're each mini career ladders. And we're really democratic. There's all these stories of, I started washing dishes and now I own a hotel. But actually, millions of people have left the industry because no one was ever able to inspire them, kind of show them that next skill they needed to learn. And we've got a job as the industry's leaders to show people what all these little career ladders could be. And yeah, hopefully they'll stick with you and grow with you. But if they end up going somewhere else, that's fine as well. They'll tell a great story and might be able to backfill that role. So yeah, completely agree.
So we talked about the modern guests and how we believe that guests have changed, and that's changing the buyer behavior in hospitality. So I'd love to just talk about that a little bit more, and how is that driving their buying behaviors at your brands or at your hotels? And are you adopting your brand to these new travelers, or actually just hoping that the industry will rebound back in a few months' time and that everything will be the same? Stephen?
Yeah, I was thinking back when I was to the first one Forward back in Amsterdam, and I was on stage there with Oyo. And I was representing Sonder. And I think if you kind of fast forward now a few years, who's still around in a material way and who's less so, right? I think the reality was Oyo represented their pitch was standardization, right? We're going to bring some element of consistency to what was otherwise a very inconsistent offering across places like India and China. And they were trying to bring that to Europe in 1-star, 2-star hotels and relatively small hotel rooms, and that really hasn't grabbed the attention of owners, of guests, of even to some extent investors. Now that SoftBank has kind of reined that back in, and so I think what has kept going, and Sonder's about to finish its IPO with its SPAC, and further investment in service departments all across the pitch is really, people are traveling more with other people. That's a fact that predates the pandemic, but certainly was accelerated by the pandemic. You're getting a higher occupancy per key than you've gotten at any time in the since we've been counting. And those people are traveling for longer periods. Length of stay is increasing. And so when you put those two things together, they have a multiplicative effect. If you're going to have more people staying in a space and they're going to be staying for longer, they need more space. And that, I think, is the key underlying feature that we're seeing come out of the pandemic, certainly in the service department side of the world. And I think those travelers who are coming and staying for longer, traveling with family or with friends, they also need a space that works in many different ways for them. So, what we've called life in all modes. I need my space when I travel to act as my office. I need it to act as a place where I can have some friends over. I need it to act as a place, of course, where I'm going to veg out in front of the TV and eventually go to sleep. So I think the brands that are really going to capitalize on all of this are the ones that can offer that extra element of space that a traditional 18 square meter hotel room just doesn't have. It just can't do that. It was already a bit soulless, a bit bland, a bit boring, but now it's really functionally inadequate. And I think that's the key difference that we have now, is that for a modern way of living, traditional hotels just don't work. And so I think that's going to be the huge shift. It's not going to happen overnight, of course, but it is something that I think we're seeing, and certainly brands that are adapting to that are the ones that are most likely to capitalize on the resurgence coming out of the pandemic.
Because if you think about, if I think to like a typical London or Paris city center hotel with their tiny rooms, like, can you get the same value out of that space if you were to combine 2 rooms with a room with an office? But then you'd have to charge the customer double for that room, and would they be willing to pay for that? Because the price in those destinations is generally really high. So how would you cater to that in a destination where real estate is super expensive?
Yeah, and that's, I think, where we're starting to see the tipping point, because you're absolutely right. As I say, it comes back to customer willingness to pay, right? And if they're willing to pay for space, then it works. If they're not, it's harder, right? But I think what we've seen is, as these projects, especially kind of ground up developments for things like service departments, as they become more feasible because funding is there, people understand what a service department is and the like, and they find it an investable product, then it does start to make sense much more than it has in the past. And it's still not the easiest financials to work through, but you can really get something that works. And it doesn't always have to be 2 to 1, right? That's the other bit. There, a slightly larger space, which is well thought through, and this where space planning is absolutely spot on, where seen things where, of course, you have desks that fold into walls, and sofas that double as your dining room, as your dining chairs, right? Many different ways to plan a space. So it's not like you have to go from 18 square meters to 36. You don't. It's somewhere in between. And I think finding the exact right sauce, the secret sauce for that, is really the key to capitalizing on all of this.
Yeah, like I love Zoku, that brand in Amsterdam. That like they make their space flexible, so you can pull the wall out and it becomes a staircase to your bedroom. And I think they've been really smart about that way before the pandemic, but they're definitely benefiting from the upside today. And I think they're expanding.
Yeah, I visited Zoku when I was last in Amsterdam a few weeks back, and yeah, exactly. It's that space planning aspect. Now that product isn't for everybody, right? So we have a separate product called the Wittenberg right down the street, and the Wittenberg does incredibly well with people who want to stay for very long periods of time, right? So we're talking about corporate relocations. We're talking about so we have it's just a major OTA based in Amsterdam that likes to put people in there when they're moving execs in for multiple months, right? And that again, it's horses for courses, but the key is that it's a continuum, and we're seeing the pendulum start to swing more towards additional space, not just what I've called in the past kind of Hong Kongization of real estate, where you just stack them high as high as you can. So I think that's a sea change.
Because Carla, I think Accor has been quite vocal about this change of hybrids and trying to combine sleeping space with workspace. Which brands are like leaping onto that? Which type of brands work really well with that? And what is it physically what you're doing in the hotels?
It's interesting because I see what Steven say, that it's a massive shift in the product themselves, a hotel product, the design, the way you do that. And if you see the new rooms of IBs, or if you see Joe and Joe, for example, and you guys know quite well because first Joe and Joe, we use it, your platform, but I think there is plenty of brands, even the traditional brands. We are rethinking how do we do hotels differently. But it's going beyond the room. It's really, we are really focused in the public space and experience. And what I see, and I just wanted to do a link with you, Matt, and your product and the way that you guys being great in this market. I think if you have it, a very static product, you have to create it something different, either in the public area or in F&B or in partnership or in experience somehow, that when I look it into how technology can help that, because there is nothing I can do in the product in the end of the day, but how technology can enable that change is really looking to connecting things better, to really bring the technology up to us through partnership. I don't expect that Mews or any other PMS vendors has the solution for everything, but to make that journey a bit simple in terms of, okay, I don't have the best breakfast, but I can use the boulangerie in across the street to provide that service through me. How can I make the PMS connected to there, create this partnership? So this kind of things, for me, it's a much above the product and where we can do a massive difference moving forward. So, for example, Accor has Wojo that is in every brand. I just came back from South America and was in IB's, like a tiny IB's, and they create a corner for a workspace and people booking that kind of thing. Was in a Sofitel, was in a Puma, was in a Novotel. And they started to understand and say, it's boring to work in teams in my home. I just go to the hotel, just cross the street and work a bit over there. So Accor has products that is super innovated, that is really ready for that differentiation to create a great space to sleep and everything. For the most traditional and square brands, we aggregate it with additional services that is linked to F&B experience, that is common place to work, extending kitchen. We had a great project at Accor that our kitchen was closed most of the time. So we opened the kitchens for other chefs or to other type of industry to come and cook in our kitchen. So there is a lot of creativity. And what I see, it's a lot of solutions in the market. I'm completely lost. There is so many technology in the market that sometimes I'm saying, well, and I feel bad that I can't talk to everyone and I don't have hours in the agenda to see everyone. So I think Mews has a very key position in that market to make sure the connectivity and the solution for us, it's make it simple, make it easy, and bring the technology that end-to-end is hassle-free and we can enable other experience through technology.
Thank you. So the last topic I wanted to touch on is business travel. It's the segment that we all don't want to talk about because it's not in a great place, but I think it's important that we do talk about it and hopefully bring some hope to our people on the calls. But Vasilis, like you're obviously in the data space, are you seeing, because we saw when the hotels reopened or when borders reopened, actually a very quick surge in business coming back, but it wasn't necessarily business travel. It was a lot of leisure travel, and we saw the Friday night rate go up. But what's going to happen with business travel? What's your best prediction that you can give us?
Oh, I'd be rich if I could predict that, to be honest. But I think the way that you see it is, first leisure regional travel started, and then business regional started, or domestic, and then a little bit of international, and it sort of goes in steps, right? And there's many theories out there. One person told me, business travel is binary. I've been told it's like if I go on the road and I'm selling, I'm a salesperson, and then my competitor also needs to get on the road, because my competitor can't say like, hey, I'm going to do a Zoom call. If McKinsey is against Accenture and McKinsey goes to visit a client in London, Accenture won't say, hey, I'll do a Zoom call, we'll do it. No, it's not going to work. They're going to get back on the road. I think the nature of business travel will be different. I think what Stephen was saying in terms of length of stay, you'll make your travel probably more purposeful. So maybe you'll have less nights, but they're going to stay longer. I think because companies are opening up with partnerships to, it's getting a much more fluid environment. So you'll need to get in a destination, spend a month in the destination and work on projects with a company that you have partnered with. So that nature will change. I think as companies are working more and more from home, they need to get people together to travel in a destination to meet, or maybe in hubs or wherever. Because you want to keep the culture, you want people to collaborate. You can collaborate on Zoom. It does work. I mean, you can catch up on Zoom. That's fine. But if you're really properly working on a project, you need to get people together. So, and then there is also a long-term underlying growth in company in activity in world GDP or something. So that will create also more business travel. So I think it will come back. Some of it will be lost and won't come back for sure. There's that's inevitable. But it will be changed. It will be different. That's I don't know if that qualifies as a prediction, but that's my thoughts.
Close enough, I guess. Because you're obviously also working in the meeting space you mentioned. So do you see that the meeting space would rebound faster because of what you're saying? People need to actually have physical meetings, but might not necessarily go and visit a regional office as much as they used to, but actually rather have meetings and events. So do you feel that it's going to be leisure meetings and then individual business travelers will return in that order?
Well, what we saw with because we have a lot of data around meetings in getting more in that company, and we were surprised to see the surge in demand that you had in meetings. I mean, it was really huge. I mean, it wasn't not levels like 2019, but you could really see that there was this pent-up demand for meetings. I mean, and companies needed to get people together. And we've been debating a lot about this whole hybrid environment. I think to some extent, hybrid will replace part of it, etc. But I think on the long term, I'm very optimistic about the meeting industry because it really boils down to the nature of us as humans, of making connections, of working on something together, of getting inspired, of, this will definitely continue. So I'm very optimistic about that. And the first data was really positive about it. And it's a function of restrictions. As long as government restrictions go up, then it's like just going down. Government restrictions go down, then demand goes up. So it's like, it's only a function of restrictions, which is great. We know there's a correlation there. Cool. It's positive.
I think there's also an element of I'm going to make it all about talent again, is that, we had 10 years of salespeople really being account managers, right? We know who our corporate business is, and that changed overnight. And one of the big things we saw in Atollo is a lot of sales mentoring, where people were actually, doing real micro segmentations of, okay, it's not just business travel. What is all the ways we could bring business travelers to our hotel? What are all that it could, because we still had a lot of healthcare workers going. We still had a lot of, to Stephen's point, a lot of healthcare workers living away from home because they didn't want to kind of affect the family. And now we're seeing people wanting to go away on holiday, but potentially get some work done while they're away with their family. There's all these different things in the kind of the manual labor, kind of blue collar space. A lot of travel hasn't stopped, right? Because if you need to lay a new gas piping, you're laying a new gas pipe. If you need to go to an oil rig, you're going to an oil rig. So I think no one size fits all. There's definitely been, the casual business travel market, dare I say, it's probably going to drop by 20% or so. But a lot of business travel will still come back. So for your hotel, are your salespeople hustling, and actually do they understand in all the buildings around you, well, are they having clients come in? Are they having overseas offices come in? What's actually happening account by account? And it's those salespeople that know how to get on the phone, influence that business, put the right deals in place for people. They're the ones. I'm not, by the way, a sales expert, but I just hear a lot from our mentors in this space. That's the stuff you're going to do. So if you're not sure what's going on in your business travel space, again, just get a mentor, join communities of salespeople who are discussing this stuff, because, if you're in Cape Town, they're in New York, you're not competing. Why don't you share ideas on what works and what doesn't?
So I want to actually have a look at Slido and what's in there. I know that we've asked people to ask us questions, which is always super nerve-wracking. Like we do it in our company as well. And I start to sweat when I see some of the questions come through, but I think it's good to see what people want to talk about. The first one actually talks about how do we bridge the knowledge gap between hoteliers who aren't hospitality tech experts and the suppliers with a plethora of tools and solutions to aid them. I guess, James, that's yours now.
I got 3 answers to this one. One is there is great objective stuff out there. Jordan, the Hotel Tech Report guy, is a great place to start, right? It's like a TripAdvisor for tech solutions. And if you're using a tech solution, you like it, go onto platforms like that and tell people. If you don't like it, go onto platforms like that and tell people. So the first thing is that there is some objective stuff. Second thing is work with a consultant who is objective, right? One of the things we do at the GrowthWorks is we don't care who you use, or you may not even need new tech. It's just about getting your hotel working. And there's lots of people who actually, they just want to help you. They're not in the back pocket of any particular supplier. And the last thing, of course, is upskill your teams, right? You give them the space to go and connect with experts, to go and find mentors, to go and chat to people who use this stuff. If you were to contact Mews, I'm sure they could give you 5 companies that are similar to yours that have implemented them in the last couple of years. And I'm sure Mews's competitors would do the same. So upskill your teams and empower them that you want answers. Hey, 3 months from now, we might want a different system around F&B or around check-in or around upsell. Go away, have a look who's the best. And that's the best thing you can do. Go to the objective site, get an objective person in, and upskill your team through kind of mentorship or research.
And like most of the solutions today are SaaS solutions, software as a service solution. So you'll probably get a month or 2 months for free if you ask for it. And integrations aren't what you're used to with legacy, where you have to go on some waiting list for 6 months and then hope that someone will come onto your local server and install an app. It's actually often click and enable. And the most innovative companies are probably the ones that are enabled to literally bought off the shelf and test out and just try it. Like there's so many revenue management systems, and I think 1/3 of our hotels today have a revenue management solution built in. But once they're in, they don't really try out other ones. And I think it's good for you to test out if it works, try for a month and then switch out to another one. And then you can always come back to the one that works for your business the best, because the algorithms work different for different types of businesses and not all of them are equal. So just take it for a test ride. I love the next question. How do you ensure that senior demographic isn't left out in the new guest experience through technology? They aren't as tech savvy. And I think this goes to diversity and inclusion. And how do we make sure that we include all backgrounds, right? Underprivileged backgrounds that may not have had the same education. People that have used legacy systems are sometimes also struggling to adopt to new technology. And how do we make sure that we pull them in? Who wants to talk about this one?
I think we'd be surprised that some of them are fantastic in new technology. If I see grandparents, they amaze me.
Yeah, I think I was going to say a similar thing with this. I wouldn't necessarily say it's just the senior demographic, but ultimately you have to have different pathways, right? I use the example of airlines all the time. A load of old people know exactly how their BA app works, or pick an airline of your choice. But you know what? You don't have to use the app. There is also, you can turn up with a paper boarding pass. You can actually turn up with no boarding pass, booked by a travel agent, and get it all sorted. So they're not shutting down options when you go to check in at an airport. They're saying, look, if you want to go straight through, that's kind of what we prefer. It's a gorgeous experience. But you know what? If you want to use different methods, and a lot of it's occasion based, right? If I'm on my honeymoon and I'm at a luxury resort, I probably don't want to I want to sit in the lobby for 30 minutes while someone tells me about the place and gives me a cool cocktail. So a lot of it's occasion based rather than demographic based. But ultimately, yes, great question. You have to have the old pathways in place, if you like, and you have to make sure that people have got manual options.
Carla, what do you think?
I was gonna say exactly like James. I think in working 15 years in hospitality, trust operations, they know better. It's the same time when you're implementing cloud solution, you have to review your BCP, you have to have the good paper and the report printed. And the same thing for contactless or for any new technology you put in place. And operation, they are so connected to guest behavior. And Accor had a program that still have a program called Artist. And we train people how to read it, body language, how to read it when you walk it in the door and you're in a hurry and you just wanted to get to your room. You know how you approach that person. But if you see a person that wants to talk and have some catch up and talk. You have to have it, all the scenarios tested. And we did a great thing that called role play, like a kind of a theater when we train our staff. So you get it, you face it like the mood, or you face it, the happy and bubbling guest. So that for me is just making sure when we deploy technology to enable things, not to change it dramatically and just say, you have to sit it or you have to be standard. That is never gonna work, in my opinion.
Thank you. There's a question here, which I'm not fully understanding, but I'm hoping you can help me decipher it. For us running a hotel with almost only housekeeping and some back office, what's the next revolution in hospitality? What I think they're saying.
Yeah, I think that is a super cool one, because I see that trending come. We used to have it in Accor in the beginning, everything was receptionless. And if you go to the roads in France, you still have it a lot of Formula One that becomes IB's budget. So you have kiosk for everything. So for some brands, that is super important because they are so low cost that you can't even have it dedicate housekeeping. So you have it so many innovative ways to do, and thanks to technology, that is becoming super easy to do it. So
I actually read that a completely different way, Carla. That's so funny. I thought it was like I've got almost no. I'm on a skeleton crew. I've got almost no staff in my hotel. I've got housekeeping and back office to keep the lights on. What do I do? And my big question is going to be, what on earth is going on with your marketing and your distribution? Ultimately, if you're going to put money anywhere, you have to put it into finding customers, right? We are. I know hospitality is hard, and I can see there's another question here around managing social media. Every hotel is multiple industries all in one. We're a restaurant, we're an e-commerce business, we're an accommodation business, and it is hard, but that's the industry. We have got to be more savvy around how do people find us, how do people book us, how do people kind of come to us. And so the next revolution for this hotel, if I've got that right, is got to be your marketing funnel. How are you bringing people to your hotel, direct, indirect, on your social media, and how do you make sure you know who those guests are? That would be where I'd put all their time and money.
And I think as we think of revolution on that front, James, I think really a lot of chat right now about the metaverse, which is effectively VR applied universally. I think when you're talking about how you end up engaging with younger guests, with guests coming from more tech savvy places, for instance, in China and elsewhere, right? And really getting in front of them through their own chosen methods of communication, which a lot of times now are games and things like the metaverse that are coming our way, right? So, to me, the next revolution in going and grabbing customers is leveraging things like that, so that people really have a sense of the space that they're going to be walking into when they arrive, and so they're not surprised when they find out it's a smaller hotel room than they thought because it's in the middle of Paris, or actually this is massive, this is great. We've all walked into those spaces and been surprised. But actually, one of the things that VR metaverse type of targeting will allow is for people to understand fully what they're getting themselves when they click buy on hopefully our direct website, but maybe an OTA. And I think it gives us a chance to really emphasize from a service partner perspective what kind of space we do offer. And I think that's the next step on that. And I think that'll be something that is a true revolution. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but certainly over the next few years, as things move more and more in that direction, I think it's something that we'll have to really get on board with, because although we've talked about seniors just now, there's also a huge number of people coming up through the ranks that are on technology beyond what even we understand, right? So we need to be open-minded to that as well.
Thank you. Vasilis, it sounds like the next one is yours. How can you prove the ROI of new technology like a business intelligence tool to your management?
Looks like this is for me. Indeed. So the way, I'll tell you a bit our philosophy around that, because it's a question we get quite often. And our philosophy on that is, I think we need to rethink the KPIs on which we measure success in hospitality. And we need to be very, very specific about which KPIs are. I give you an example. For instance, we talk a lot about GOP per available room. I hate GOP per available room because it like there's so many things that can influence that. Like there's a million things that can influence that from top to bottom. So you need to start breaking down a little bit more concrete. So one of the things we look at, for example, is cost of acquisition. You know, how much do you spend in sales and marketing? How much every customer is costing you? Which are your most profitable customers? When are they staying? Is it the you know, and all these sort of things. So that's one of the examples. So I think it's rethinking about the KPIs to be a little bit more specific on what do you collect as data, and then being able to influence that. So I think that's how we see it. And at the end of the day, you know, BI won't do much for you. It's really about empowering the people to take better decisions and to influence whatever. You know, if we implement our BI somewhere in a hotel and it stays there and nobody looks at it, obviously you're not going to get a very good ROI. So again, it comes down to the people of education, and we need to help them take better decisions, but we also need to bring them that extra dimension and extra context in, here's these new KPIs that most likely are centered around the customer instead of your inventory, that you can take decisions, and how much, and here's what the impact is on sort of every level. So that's a little bit our philosophy. I don't know if it answers the question, but you know, that's how we think about it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's, you know, buying it is one thing, but actually using it effectively is another thing. And you need to have the right people to steer that machinery to really, especially BI, right? So revenue management systems, often you can let run and it will just do it for you. Whereas with BI, you get the data presented to you in a certain way, and then you have to make conclusions from it. And that is a skill set that you need to bring into the business, because it does require a certain analytical person to look at it. But you know, I don't think that, you know, if you're a small hotel, go with a revenue management system. But if you're a larger hotel, there's more than just room rates that you're looking at. You're looking at a much wider sets of data that you should be diving into and get excited about. And you know, while not everyone is excited about data, you should definitely have someone in your company that is excited about it.
Yeah, I'll give you one last example before, is that when we look at, for example, the spread in terms of acquisition costs on certain customer demographics and the spread in terms of total spend, like Steven was mentioning, I get 2 people per room and some demographics tend to spend more, etc. And then you put them side by side and you see the spread from lowest contributing customers to higher contributing customers. Like that is unbelievable when we looked at the data to see, like we're saying, okay, we need, you know, you need to spend money somewhere else rather than where you're spending it. I mean, these are real results. It's real profit. It's real GOP per available room, so to speak. Yeah.